A couple weeks ago, I posted a video about Budew where I mentioned a super secret deck. I said that it was way too good to show off just yet because it might win the next international championships, and I am still confident that it can. However, I've been thinking, winning $25,000, a massive trophy, and a whole bunch of glory would be incredible. But you know what I'd trade all of that for? A few more subscribers. So I'm gonna leak the most toxic Budew deck that you will ever see, and I might just ruin the meta by doing this. But I'm not just going to go through all the cards and explain how it works. I want to prove that I can win a tournament using ONLY Budew with this insane deck. So after I show you this absolute masterpiece, I'm going to be sleeving it up, taking it to a couple of my local stores and absolutely ruining some other players' days. But first, here's the list that you've all been waiting for. Yeah, it's quite a lot to take in, so let's go through it card by card. First up, we've got Budew. This is the main fella. There are only two, but trust me, it is the core of the deck, and the attacker will be using 99% of the time. Next up, we've got Ditto. Basically just a beefier Budew, since you'll almost always be copying Itchy Pollen. The 70 HP is super relevant for surviving random weak attacks, as well as things like Monkey Dory's spread damage. Also, since it's a normal type, your attacks aren't resisted by any annoying bridge Pokemon. The deck shares a very similar shell to Clorf Terapagos. This is great because it enables a consistent early setup of a really wide board, which the deck absolutely needs. But unlike Clorf Terapagos, it doesn't suffer from an over-reliance on finding double turbo energy, so we save a lot of space there. This shell includes cards like Area Zero to open up an extra wide bench. For our Terra Pokemon to enable this, rather than the usual Terapagos, I've gone with just one as well as a Wellspring Ogerpon, since we won't usually be using the attack. And the added flexibility of Sob is really nice and comes up more than you'd realize. Oranguru V, Lumineon V, and Squawkabilly EX are great Pokemon to help us set things up. While Pheasantipity EX and Regidrago, no, not that V-Star one, can help us sustain our draw in the mid to late game. Latias EX is also here to provide free retreat for everyone, because we can't all be naturally blessed with it like Budew is. And we also have the Poison package, which is absolutely going to skyrocket Budew's damage. This includes Brute Bonnet to poison, Radiant Hisuian Sneasler to boost the poison damage, and Petulant to open up the opportunity for a turn 1 donk when you go first. You do generally want to go second with the deck, but it's nice to have the option when your opponent forces you to go first. And of course, we also have the tools that enable this package, Binding Mochi and Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. But our main attacker only has 30 HP, so how are we going to keep our opponent item locked without K-ing our own Budew with poison? Monkey Dory. This big-brained chimp is able to constantly move the damage off of Budew onto our opponent's board, preventing it from ever being knocked out by poison. We've got 3 Dark Energy to activate the monkey, and spoilers, these are the only energy that are going to be in the deck. Iron Bundle is some nice supplementary gusting, and this can be great as a freebie off of Trolley and allow you to hit slightly higher priority targets in the early game. Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is great for closing out games, plus it can reach 310 damage with poison and even 340 if you have some existing damage on the board with Monkey Dory. I've also included a Diancie. This one is just here for the Lugia matchup because that can be pretty tough if they break through the item lock, and with the additional poison damage you can usually handle all of Lugia's threat. Plus you can copy the attack with Ditto. This has some nifty synergy since Lugia normally resists Diancie's fighting type attacks, allowing you to sneak in an extra 30 damage. For Ball Search, we've got 4 Nest Balls since we won't always be ripping Trolley immediately, and we also have to have a Terra Pokemon in play first if we want that full value. 2 Ultra Balls, additional Ball Search that also enables Lumineon and can be used to thin the deck even if we have a full bench. 2 Hisuian Heavy Balls since there are like 19 basic Pokemon in this deck and we'd rather not prize any of them. And of course, the big A-spec, Precious Trolley. It can be pretty hard to find, so I've got 4 Arven so we can always search it out. Plus, we have so many tools that it's always just a nice supporter to play. 3 Iono. This is more than you'd see in the usual Clorf Terapagos list, but games go a lot longer and Iono really helps you to further starve them of resources. 1 Boss's Orders. I wouldn't mind 2, but the counter catches and Iron Bundle are often enough to supplement those gusting needs. Next up, 3 Night Stretcher. It's really good for reusing all of these one-off Pokemon, especially when your stadium gets bumped and you're forced to discard a few of them. 2 Switch Cart to get Oranguru in and out of the active on the same turn, as well as helping out the stall matchup and when you happen to prize or lose a Latias. 2 Counter Catcher for some item-based gusting that can really let you make comebacks in some otherwise unwinnable games when paired with Iono. 1 Earthen Vessel to find our Dark Energies. This is such an upgrade compared to how standard Clorf Terapagos finds their energy. Colress's Tenacity and Energy Loader just don't hit the same as a good Earthen Vessel. Lastly, there are a few more tools that I haven't mentioned yet, and we have so much tool search that they'll always be accessible whenever we need. Forest Sealstone to instantly grab anything that we want, Counter Gain to enable enable attacks with Ursaluna and Terapagos with a single Dark Energy, and a spicy Gravity Gemstone, since trapping something in the active while item locking them is an insane way to steal some crazy games. Alright, now it's time to head to one of my local stores and try and win a tournament with this cooked creation. Round 1 of the tournament, and I'm up against a Ceruledge deck. I managed to win the coin flip and pick to go second so that I can start item locking as soon as possible. But they actually have a really solid start. Despite opening with Fezandipity, they're able to chain a turn 1 Carmine into Squawkabilly, ending their first turn with basically the perfect board state and half of their deck in the discard. Luckily, I've got the nuts on my side as well, with Nest Ball for Terapagos, Area 0 already in hand, and an Arven which can find me Precious Trolley for 7 more benched Pokemon, getting me Radiant Sneasler, Budew, Brute Bonnet, Oranguru, Squawkabilly, Latias, and Fezandipity. I'm about to rip Squawk and Seize for 6 cards, so I just attach a Gravity Gemstone to Budew so I don't lose it. This will let me trap Fezandipity in the active for an extra turn and will buy some time and burn through more of their resources. Unfortunately, I'm not able to find that ancient tool for the extra poison damage, so I've just got to be content with item locking for 10 and buying a turn. But the item lock has done its job and he just has to pass back to me without anything else going on. Over on my side, I find that ancient booster energy capsule and can get the poison going with Brute Bonnet and really start to rack up damage. He plays down an Iono to get a fresh new hand and evolves into a Ceruledge, but thanks to Gravity Gemstone, that Fezandipity has 2 retreat and is stuck in the active. I use Arven to grab Forest Sealstone and Earthen Vessel. Now the fun begins. With a Dark Energy on Munkidori, I can move 20 damage off of my Budew over to his Fezandipity and repeat a constant cycle of item lock, poison, and damage spreading. This is great, but a second hand attach finally frees his Fezandipity and he's able to take a KO on my Budew. But thanks to the pressure that item lock put on his initial setup, I'm actually in a really good position. With the help of Counter Gain and a Dark Energy, Terapagos can actually attack, and with a full bench, that'll be 240 damage, since there isn't any of that usual double turbo energy damage reduction going on. Plus, with the extra 30 damage from that Radiant Hisuian Sneasler boosted poison, I'm able to one-shot his Ceruledge EX. And since it was the poison that finished it off, and not the actual damage, that happens between turns, which means he can't use Fezandipity's Flip the Script ability. He's going to need to set up another Ceruledge and attack this turn, otherwise the game is pretty much over. He plays down Professor's Research and draws a fresh new hand of 7 cards, but after a quick stock check of the resources left in the deck, he realizes that 2 Fire Energy are prized, leaving him with absolutely no way to attack and just scooping it up to go into game 2. This time, I'm the one who's got to go first, and I don't have a particularly strong hand. But it's fine, I'll just Nest Ball for Oranguru, retreat into it with a Dark Energy, grab a Forest Sealstone and some other tool, and then we'll go from there. I have prized my Forest Sealstone. This is a public service announcement to not be like me, and actually properly check your prizes so you don't end up looking really dumb. I just pass it over to him without doing anything else. After a Squawk and Seize, he plays an Iono, which is great news for me because that hand was doing nothing. But in less good news, I am now item locked. It does not feel great to be on the receiving end of this. Other than a Budew, I've got nothing else I can play before dropping my own Iono. Hey look, I had a Precious Trolley in hand. That would have been great to play if I wasn't item locked. And because of this item lock, all I can do is grab a few tools that Oranguru's back order and pass back the turn. He's now able to set up a Ceruledge, and clearly traumatized from last game's item locking shenanigans, he bosses up my Budew and knocks it out, taking the first prize. But now that I'm free to play all the items I want, I can start to pop off. Back order gets me a couple of tools, then I use Ultra Ball to find Luminion, which searches out an Arven. With Area 0 Underdepths already in hand, I can Arven for Precious Trolley and fill out my bench with 6 more Pokemon. Latias, Terapagos, Hisuian Sneasler, Fezandipity, Brute Bonnet, and Ditto. Just like last game, I attached Counter Gain and a Dark Energy onto Terapagos, and with the additional damage from Poison, I am once again able to one-shot his only Ceruledge EX. I know I've been using a fair bit of Terapagos so far, but it's really just the backup plan for the deck. Trust me, Budew will get its chance to shine soon. He draws 7 off of Research, benching a couple of Sharkadets, and then making a smart call to preemptively use Ultra Ball for Ceruledge, anticipating some more item lock coming his way. The turn ends with his own Budew attack, item locking me once again. Fortunately, I already have everything that I need and just promote Ditto, poison us both, copy Itchy Pollen, and then allow the poison damage to finish off his Budew, denying Fezandipity. He evolves into Ceruledge, but without access to items, isn't able to find the Fire Energy for Abyssal Flames. I've only got 3 prizes left to take, and I want to fix up my prize map to ensure that I don't have to go through multiple beefy EX Pokemon. So first I bump the Pokestop with Area 0 Underdepths and use Night Stretcher to pull Luminion from the discard. Luminous Sign lets me search out boss's orders, and thanks to a Binding Mochi, I'm able to gust up and deal 80 damage to his Sharkadet before it evolves, leaving me with 2 prizes to take, and now all I need to do is finish off any of his EX Pokemon and I'll win the game and the set. Still under item lock, he has to go another turn without attacking and just passes it back to me. All I need is to find another Dark Energy and I'll be able to attack with Terapagos for game. So I bench Regidrago, thin out my hand, and try to draw into it. I end up whiffing, but I'm so far ahead this game that it's completely fine, and I just retreat back into Ditto and continue the lock. The inability to use items continues to completely ruin him with yet another turn of absolutely nothing, as I finally reach that other Dark Energy and win the game. Just look at that hand, he would have been absolutely fine if he could have actually used any of those items. Winning this first one is a great start for the deck. I really hope that we can keep it up. Next round, I'm paired into a Dragapult Dusknoir deck. Personally, I think this might just be the best deck in the meta right now, but I'm ready for it. He wins the coin flip, and very scared of getting item locked, he opts to go second. I really don't think that he was expecting what happened next. He only has an active Dreepy and no benched Pokemon, but I can't attack when going first, right? He's safe, right? My opening hand has a Nest Ball and a Switch card, so as long as I haven't prized any pieces of the combo, I can just win on the first turn before he can even play a single card. I check my deck and it all looks good. Nest Ball for a Rangaroo, Switch card into it, back order for a Forest Sealstone and an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, Forest Sealstone for Precious Trolley for Brute Bonnet, Pecharunt, Latias, and a Budew, cause why not? I attach the Ancient Tool to Brute Bonnet and use its Toxic Powder ability. Then, thanks to Latias, I can retreat for free into Pecharunt, shake my hand, that is game 1 done. Nice and easy. Yeah, so with this deck, your opponent is not only scared of you going second and immediately locking them out of items for the entire game, but they also need to fear you going first and hitting that amazing turn 1 donk if they're playing any deck with 80 HP or less basic Pokemon. And going into game 2, that is exactly what he's worried about, opting to go first in order to avoid a repeat of that last incident. But you know what happens when you go first as Dragapult? Not much. He just benches and attaches to a Dreepy and makes use of Earthen Vessel while he still can. Over on my side, I've got an Arven to immediately grab Precious Trolley. This sets up Brute Bonnet, Budew, Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, Oranguru, and Latias. Unfortunately, Iron Bundle is prized, otherwise I would have been able to get rid of his only Dreepy and pretty much win on the spot. Instead, I just settle for KOing his active Budew, making sure not to attach Binding Mochi so that it is specifically the poison damage that finishes it off to deny Phesandipity's ability. Funnily enough, he actually has to bench Phesandipity anyway to avoid just outright losing the game by running out of Pokemon. He uses Dreepy's first attack for 10 damage to set up my Budew to be finished off by poison, coming back into my turn, praying that I can't find one to replace it. But I immediately drop a Night Stretcher and resurrect my fallen Budew, attaching a Binding Mochi to ensure that I can knock out Dreepy with poison damage. And then I even play Area 0 and Monkey Dory to set up for that loop next turn. Without any Dreepys in play and no signs of the item lock stopping, the rest of the game is just a formality. He can't even make a single action next turn. One annoying weakness of the deck is that it can't really hit big numbers when ahead in prizes, but honestly, does that really matter when you're winning so hard anyway? I just grab Arven for Earthen Vessel to find a few Dark Energies so that I can use Monkey Dory and keep my Budew alive, and then continue the lock, putting 100 total damage on his Phesandipity. He manages to top deck an Iono and draw into a Dreepy off of that, so there are some faint signs of life, I guess, but I'm able to just drop Luminion for Arven and find a Heavy Ball, fetching out that Iron Bundle that was stuck in the prizes, crushing any hopes he may have had for making a comeback. Miraculously, he finds another Iono that somehow draws him into the final 2 Dreepies left in his deck, but since I only have 3 prizes remaining, if I just finish off the Phesandipity while keeping him item locked, I'll only have to take 1 more prize. And since he won't have access to rare candy and therefore won't be able to evolve either of those Dreepies into a Dragapult, I know that coming back into my next turn, they'll both be in range of a boosted Itchy Pollen for my final prize. And despite Lance letting him evolve both of those Dracloaks, 90 HP isn't enough, and with a combination of Monkey Dory moving 20 damage with Adrenabrain, Budew dealing 50 thanks to Binding Mochi, and Poison dealing 30 thanks to Sneasler, I'm able to get the knockout and win the game and the set. This puts me at a record of 2-0, and this tournament actually only has 3 rounds, so just 1 more and I'll be able to claim first place with my Budew deck. I'm so happy with how these games have been going. It really showcases what the deck can do when it works out. It's so much fun. Time for the 3rd and final round, and I'm up against a Golden Go deck. This one can actually be a little tricky if they're prepared to deal with item lock. Despite going first, she sets up pretty well, but over on my side, I've already got Precious Trolley in my opening hand. Unfortunately, no Area 0 to make full use of it, but it is still incredible to just straight up grab 5 Pokemon. Sneasler, Budew, Brute Bonnet, Oranguru, and Latias. Then I attach a Binding Mochi to my Wellspring Ogerpon and use Iono. I want you to keep that Binding Mochi in mind for later because it's actually quite a big misplay. There is so much easy access to tools in this deck that I should never be stressed about finding them at the right times, and I should never feel the need to preemptively attach one like this. You never know what kind of unique maths you'll need to be hitting, so it's important to be ready for anything. Anyway, after the Iono, I find the Ancient Tool, and that means that I can hit for the full 80 with Budew. Unfortunately, it's only onto Greninja and not one of the Gimme Ghouls, but damage is damage. She starts her turn by immediately playing Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking. This card is incredible for playing under item lock, since when combined with either Radiant Greninja or Coin Bonus, it essentially reads grab any 2 cards from your deck and chuck them in the hand. And then she makes a really smart call. Rather than evolving into Goldango and potentially wasting precious resources with its attack, she instead uses Palkia V-Star to take the KO since it's way more efficient. I'm not able to deal with a Palkia just yet, so I pop an Iron Bundle and force her into promoting something else. She sends up the damage Radiant Greninja and I respond with another Budew, but this time I don't have a Binding Mochi, so I can only deal 40 damage, leaving Greninja with just 10 HP. There isn't heaps that she can do under item lock, but retreating into Palkia and taking another KO is more than enough to keep the pressure on me. Without a Pheasantipity down on my bench to draw cards, I am seriously struggling to make anything happening, and this completely dead hand really isn't helping. Best I can do is just promote Radiant Hisuian Sneasler and poison us both for a bit of chip damage, but worst of all, now she's free of item lock. Luckily for me, I'm actually lucky for once, and both of her Pokemon catches roll tails, so she's not able to take a 2-prize KO. She makes the most of finally having access to all of her items and sets up a really strong board. Although, she does make one mistake and benches a Manaphy. My guess is that she was worried about some kind of Wellspring Ogerpon attack since my deck is pretty wild, but this Manaphy might come back to bite her later. With my opponent now at just 3 prize cards remaining, I can finally start to make things happen. I bench Ursaluna and attach a counter game so that I can now attack for 240 damage with just a single Dark Energy, which I am thankfully able to draw off of an Iono to 6. I really want to force out an extra energy from Goldango's Make It Rain attack, so I opt to use Brute Bonnet's Toxic Powder before promoting Blood Moon Ursaluna so that it isn't poisoned. This means that she'll need 6 energy rather than 5 to KO it thanks to its massive 260 HP. And with the help of that 30 chip damage from earlier, Ursaluna's 240 damage Blood Moon attack is enough to leave Palkia with just 10 HP, which is neatly finished off by the unboosted poison. I am really hoping that Iono to 3 has stuck her and she isn't able to piece together that 7 energy needed for the return KO. But after 3 coin bonuses and a concealed cards, her hand is absolutely stacked. Fortunately, she ends up just 1 energy shy of knocking out my Ursaluna, but that doesn't matter when she has boss's orders in hand and can still take 2 prizes on my bench Latias. I am really going to miss that free retreat. Now here's where I really get punished for that Binding Mochi attach from earlier. If Wellspring Ogerpon wasn't dealing an additional 40 damage while poisoned, I could simply gust up the benched Manaphy, bring back Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, poison both of us, and then use Sob to lock it in the active. Manaphy would take a total of 50 damage and be unable to retreat. Then, if she didn't immediately find something like either Switch or Professor Turo's Scenario, it would be knocked out, coming back into my turn, leaving me with just 3 prizes left to take. Thanks to the 20 damage from poison on my own Wellspring Ogerpon, I could use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain to move it over to her Radiant Greninja, finishing it off. And then, with only 2 prizes left to take and only 2 prize Pokemon left on her side of the board, Blood Moon Ursaluna's 240 damage with the additional 30 from poison would be enough to KO anything, winning me the game. But I made a really simple mistake on the very first turn of the game and it has absolutely cost me. This deck is not easy to play. So instead of all that, I have to pray that bring up a Manaphy and using Itchy Pollen with a Gravity Gemstone will be enough to make something happen. I did check her discard and there was a whole bunch of water in there, so I'm banking on there being none left in the deck. Otherwise, I'm going to lose to Rain Splash. But there is one last water energy left in the deck and I can't believe I have lost to Rain Splash of all things. In game 2, she has to go first again, but this time her start is a lot more reasonable with just a single Gimme Ghoul and a switch into Radiant Greninja in order to keep it safe. I've got another classic Arven for Trolley start, but it is not looking like I'll be able to access Iron Bundle to KO that lone Gimme Ghoul. Instead, I just bench Latias, Terapagos, Brute Bonnet, Budew, and Oranguru. Without any way to find Iron Bundle, again, I just have to settle for an 80 damage item lock onto Greninja. And then she has Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking again. This card is such a pain when you're trying to lock your opponent out of the game. But despite having access to any 2 cards, she doesn't actually piece together an attack, just choosing to set up a more resilient board state instead. However, I decide to respond with my own really strong board, pushing up an Oranguru V so that I can grab a Forest Sealstone for Area 0, allowing me the additional bench spaces for Monkey Dory. Then I search out a couple of Dark Energies and switch cart back into Budew, making sure to move the damage off of it onto Greninja, leaving it with 30 HP remaining. And then I hit for the full 80 damage onto the active Goldango. After drawing 3 cards off a couple of coin bonuses, she opts for a Professor Turo scenario. This not only heals the active Goldango, but also allows the bench Gimmighoul to be promoted and evolved in order to see an additional 2 cards. But somehow there's still no Metal Energy, and that means no attack. With both Professor Turo scenario and Switch already gone so early, I should 100% be able to win this game. I can use a combination of Sob, Item Lock, and Gusting to really grind this game out. But since I'm already down a game and time is absolutely a factor, if I want to take the whole set, it is just not a realistic win condition. So instead, I have to just get aggressive. Well, as aggressive as a deck like this can get. I use Monkey Dory to move another 20 damage over onto Radiant Greninja, leaving it with just 10 remaining HP. And I attach a Dark Energy to start prepping Terapagos to be able to attack, announcing yet another Itchy Pollen. But with the Goldango army drawing 3 cards a turn for free, it won't be long until she starts taking prizes. And with another Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking, that'll do it, and there goes my first Budew of the game. But don't worry, I've got another one loaded up for 80 more damage, plus the extra 30 that Goldango took coming back into my turn. That is a total of 190 damage on this string cheese looking guy. She does the usual draw a few more cards with coin bonuses, and then takes out my second Budew, but that's exactly what I want. See, Goldango is still poisoned, so it's going to take another 30 damage coming back into my turn, going up to a total of 220. But wait, before poison damage happens, I get to promote a Pokemon, and I choose Pecharunt. While this fella is in the active, my opponent's poisoned Pokemon take an additional 50 damage, which means that Goldango is straight up KO'd by the massively boosted poison damage. Now I look to be in an incredible position. If I can just find my last Dark Energy, I'll be able to attack with Terapagos for potentially 310 damage if Binding Mochi gets involved, which would perfectly set me up to win a 2-2-2 prize race. But here's the hard part, actually finding that last Dark Energy when I've already used both my V-Star and my only Earthen Vessel. It's not like I can even retreat the Dark Energy off of Monkey Dory and use Night Stretcher since I am cursed with free retreat thanks to Latias. This Pheasantipity needs to be huge and find me that final Dark Energy. And it's really not. So now this Iono needs to be absolutely huge and find me that last Dark Energy. And it doesn't, so it's time to just keep item locking. There's no gusting from her side though, just an immediate KO on my Ditto. With prizes at 3 to 4, I'm actually in a really favorable position still, and all I need to do is take a 2 prize KO this turn. But look at me go, I've made another crucial misplay. By banking on drawing into a Dark Energy and preemptively attaching a Binding Mochi onto my Terapagos, I can no longer throw a counter gain on it in order to attack and take these 2 prizes. I really don't learn, do I? I'm just going to need to rely on drawing into that Dark Energy to even have a chance at this game. And after some more thinning, some Fez draws, and another Iono, I still don't see it, meaning that I have to go yet another turn without attacking. Best I can do is just push up Pecharunt for a little bit of extra poison damage. Obviously not wanting Palkia to take even more damage, she retreats into Goldango and bosses up my bench Terapagos, KOing it before it ever got the chance to actually attack. And this leaves her with just a single prize card remaining. Because I burned through all of my Ionos digging for that Dark Energy, I'm completely out of disruption, so the best I can do here is try for an Ursaluna KO and pray that it works. She shows me the boss's orders plus superior energy retrieval, and that's the game. I end up with a final record of 2 wins and 1 loss, which isn't the tournament dub that I was looking for, but I've learned a lot with this deck and it was actually really fun to play. So you know what, I'm just going to run it back. I am really keen to have another crack at winning a tournament with this pile. Off to another local store with my 60 card Abomination, and I just got to shout out the incredible art on the outside of this one. Round 1 of my second attempt, and I'm up against what seems to be an Eevee deck. They won the coin flip and chose to go second, which is great for avoiding a turn 1 item lock, but it leaves them susceptible to getting donked before they can play any cards. And they did start a lone Eevee. Perfect. I have miraculously started with Precious Trolley in my opening hand and used it to bench down Sneasler, Oranguru, Latias, Pecharunt, and Brute Bonnet. I used Switch switch card to get into Oranguru V, and then back order for Forest Sealstone and Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. I don't even need to use my V-Star, I can just retreat into Pecharunt, use Toxic Powder, and that's game. Judging by how he's reading the cards, I don't think my opponent's ever been donked like this before. Anyway, on to game 2, and he opts for second again, clearly no fear of another donk. But with only an Eevee in the active, again, he is in some serious danger. Nestball finds me Oranguru, and I switch card into it before using Squawk and Seize to see 6 more cards. And Squawkabilly actually just got me the nuts. I feel so bad for this bloke. Oranguru for Forest Sealstone and the Ancient Tool. Forest Sealstone to find Hisuian Heavy Ball, which unprizes my Sneasler. And then I have a combination of Nestball, Ultra Ball, and Switch Card in hand for game. Well, at least one of us had fun that round. What a nice way to start the tournament. In the second round, I'm up against a pretty interesting deck, Great Tusk Mill. Since I had so much time during that last round thanks to the double donk, I got to watch how the other games went, and he actually managed to beat a Dragapult player, so just because the deck is off meta doesn't mean I shouldn't respect it. He wins the dice roll and I have to go first, but my start is absolutely ridiculous. Ultra Ball for Wellspring Ogerpon, and then I just straight up have Area Zero and Precious Trolley in hand. I swear the deck is good, but it's not this good. Oranguru, Brute Bonnet, Monkey Dory, Pecharunt, Sneasler, and then a Latias from hand. Now that is some value. I end my turn with back order for some tools and a little bit of poison chip damage. Over on his side, he's off to a pretty slow start with just a hand attached to the active and a Tatsugiri on the bench. Against this deck, you realistically only get 1 turn of item use in the entire game, and you gotta make the most of it if you want a chance of winning. So now it's time to start that item locking train. With 60 damage already built up on Great Tusk from the initial poison, 50 from Budew with another 30 from poison is enough to finish off their only ancient elephant. Unfortunately, since I couldn't get rid of the artisan, they do just immediately find another one and use Sada to set it up and a rescue board to get into the active. But I don't really mind losing 4 cards off the top. I already have my perfect item lock loop set up, so there's not really anything else I actually need. And without any items, he is seriously struggling to keep up the pace, whiffing supporter for turn and then only milling me for 1 card. At this point, I'm just holding on to an Iono in hand to ensure that I don't deck out if anything goes seriously wrong, but I'm not actually worried at all. It takes a long while of announcing Toxic Powder, Adrenabrain, and Itchy Pollen every turn, but I eventually take all 6 prizes and win the first game. In game 2, I somehow managed to open with Trolley again. Latias, Sneasler, Budew, Brute Bonnet, and a Wellspring Ogerpon as well. Absolutely disgusting. But at least this time it's not the complete nut, since I am missing Area Zero to get that full value out of Trolley. The game starts off pretty similarly to the last one, with me having a strong early lead, but this time I don't have Monkey Dory established, so I just have to let my Poison Budew die. No worries though, mill decks don't take prizes, right? Well, I still don't want to keep losing Budews, and I appreciate the extra damage that Monkey Dory provides. So I play down Luminion for Arven, which finds me Forest, Sealstone, and Earthen Vessel. Then I pop my V-Star for an Area Zero to make room for the Monkey and a fresh new Budew. You didn't think I'd actually let him have another turn of items, did you? We go back and forth through a few more turns. I'm taking prizes and he's making a slow progress at chipping away my deck. But again, I'm just holding on to an Iono so I can completely restock my deck if it ever does get too thin. Plus, I've only got 2 prizes left to take, so I'm really not that worried. And then he attaches an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule to his Great Tusk, and now I am worried. You see, this card's got more uses than just enabling Brute Bonnet's Toxic Powder ability. It also provides 60 additional HP to any ancient Pokemon it's attached to, and on top of this, it heals and prevents status conditions from the Pokemon. This includes poison. I am suddenly dealing way less damage to his Great Tusk, and it now has 200 total HP. But it's alright, I've still got plenty of deck left to work with, and I can continue to chip away at it, dealing a total of 70 damage a turn with my own Mochi boosted Itchy Pollen and Adrenabrain, even if there's no poison damage involved. Now he's using the second attack and actually taking some more prizes. And I've actually got a lot of resources in the bin from all those land collapses, so I have to start worrying about running out of attackers. But I can't let this stop the item lock train just yet. I bring back a Ditto from my discard with Night Stretcher and use it to copy Itchy Pollen. I'm only dealing 10 damage, but Great Tusk has just 30 HP remaining now. He easily takes another prize, knocking out my Ditto and going down to just 3 left. I'm gonna lose at this rate, so I need to change things up. I bring back Ditto once again, but decide that it's finally time to free my opponent from item lock. And now I move on to the Sob Lock instead. But first, I make sure to rip that Iono that I've been holding on to, so that even though he can use items, he'll only have 3 cards to work with, so it won't be too bad for me. After using Sob for 20, he is really scared of losing access to his precious items again, so he brings up my Ditto with Counter Catcher and gets rid of it. But now, with only 10 HP remaining, I'm able to finish off his absolute champion of a Great Tusk with Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain, and now I have only 1 prize left to take. Both of Pecharunt and Sneasler's poison boosting abilities are enough to reach 80 damage, and without some ancient tool to provide immune opportunity, Mimikyu goes down, winning me the game and the set. Now I'm at 2-0 again, just like last tournament, but I am way more comfortable with the deck now, and I really think that I can win this one. Time for the third and final round again. And I'm up against a Palkia deck? Oh, it's Goldengo again, and that was an insane Pokestop. Too bad they'll never get to use any of those items. I've got a cracked setup on my side, with Wellspring Ogerpon to activate Area 0, and then Arven to find my precious trolley. Searching out Brute Bonnet, Oranguru, Sneasler, Pecharunt, Iron Bundle, Monkey Dory, and Latias. So much value. I'm not able to find a Binding Mochi, but I'm still hitting for 40 with Poison and getting that immediate item lock. The hand must be completely dead because he just plays down Lumineon for Iono, and the new hand isn't looking much better. After an attach to Greninja, he just passes the turn. I still don't have the Binding Mochi over on my side, but I really don't need it. Greninja now has 70 damage on it since it took 30 more from Poison coming back into my turn. So with 20 more from Monkey Dory, 10 from Ichipollen, and another 30, that's 130 damage to KO his Radiant Greninja, giving me the first prize of the game. And the item lock is doing some serious work. Even with a Palkia V-Star to evolve, the only way that he can piece together an attack is with Crispin and the use of his V-Star ability. But that does mean it's the end of my first Budew, and now I have a powered up Palkia to deal with. And you know what? I'd rather just not deal with it. So I make use of Iron Bundle to bring up Lumineon, poison it, and then trap it in the active with Wellspring Ogerpon's Sob. Unfortunately, he has Irido for Prime Catcher to immediately break out of the lock, but I know these decks generally run a very low count of switching options. So I'm ready to immediately try it again, using Counter Catcher to bring Lumineon right back up, and then Iono to leave him with a 3-card hand. Since Lumineon already has 50 damage on it, the maths works out perfectly, and I can use Binding Mochi to boost Wellspring Ogerpon's Sob to 60 damage, coupled with the boosted Poison for another 30 to leave Lumineon with just 30 HP remaining, so that if the lock sticks for just one turn, it'll be KO'd coming back into my turn. He sets up a bit more of a board, but luckily for me, isn't able to find another switching option, and Lumineon is finished off without giving him an opportunity to retaliate. And then I attempt to repeat the same trick in a different way. With just 3 prizes left to take, I don't want to go through multiple 2-prize Pokemon. So my ideal prize map is to just remove the Duskull and then whichever 2-prizer he sends up afterwards. But Sob is dealing way too much damage to successfully lock down Duskull, and he could just evolve to remove the effect anyway. But if he doesn't have access to rare candy, he probably can't evolve it. I use Ditto to copy Ichipollen for 10 damage and then another 30 from Poison. This means that it'll be KO'd coming back into my turn again, and to prevent my opponent from just attaching an energy and retreating it, I've thrown on a Gravity Gemstone as well. My plan works perfectly, and that's another turn stolen from my opponent where their poisoned Pokemon is finished off at the end of their turn. I wouldn't really call it a turn based on how much they're able to do. With prizes at 2 to 3 in my favor, I just need to ensure that I'll be able to make an attack on the last turn to win the game. So I just item lock them again with an Energy and Ursaluna in hand, ready for them to take a prize. He takes the bait, and my Ursaluna is able to swing for enough damage to take the final prize and win me the game. Just one more to go. Game 2 doesn't start quite as well as the previous though. I mean, just look at this start. I really wish I was going second. Although without any supporters or anything else going on in my hand, going second wouldn't have helped much either. I top deck a Brute Bonnet and just play it down with an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule to tack on a bit of poison damage alongside my Ichipollen. But he's easily able to knock it out, and this game is looking just about over. But an Ultra Ball off the top might just bail me out. I grab Lumineon for Arven, which gets me Forest Sealstone and a Nest Ball. Nest Ball benches a Terapagos, which enables the Area 0 I play from hand. And lastly, Forest Sealstone lets me use Precious Trolley to grab Fezandipity, Oranguru, Ditto, Sneasler, and Latias. I can't believe my board went from absolutely nothing to a full setup with just a single Ultra Ball. This now incredible board state enables me to use Terapagos to swing for a total of 270 damage with Poison thanks to counter gain and a full bench, knocking out his only Goldango, and suddenly I've got the prize lead. With Fezandipity and another Goldango, he's able to refill his hand and set up a bit more. Then he flips his V-Star, and since Palkia's Subspace Swell counts the Pokemon on both players' benches, and mine is absolutely massive, that's going to be way more than enough for the KO. And now one of the deck's biggest weaknesses is showing. Although I managed to take the first 2 prizes and should be in a really strong position, I don't have access to any more powerful attacks without counter gain. Until my opponent has taken enough prizes to activate Blood Moon Ursaluna, there's not heaps I can do other than item lock. I think this is where a second counter gain or a card like Glass Trumpet could really help out the deck. Without the ability to put together a huge attack, I have to start getting creative, bringing up his Fezandipity and attempting to keep it locked in the active with a combination of Itchy Pollen and Gravity Gemstone. The plan works, and all he can do is attach from hand to it, unable to attack or retreat. But I didn't really make much progress other than a bit of damage on Fez and a little bit of pressure on his energy resources, which don't really matter when Palkia is already powered up. Next turn, he'll just be able to attach and retreat for another KO. I'm not able to add any more disruption, and he does exactly that. But things get even worse when he bosses up my Fezandipity. Not just taking an extra prize, but crucially denying me the extra 3 cards I would have otherwise drawn. Now he has just a single prize remaining, and I'm going to need a miracle or some really creative and skillful play. I check his discard, and thanks to all the item lock pressure, he is seriously low on energy. I think if I just gust up his Goldango and trap it in the active with Itchy Pollen, I'm pretty sure he can't find 2 energies for the knockout. But why not Fezandipity? Well, it already has 100 damage on it, so if I use Itchy Pollen and Poison, that'll be 140 damage. If it sticks, it would come back into my turn with 170 damage on it, and then if I were to Itchy Pollen again, it would be knocked out, allowing him to just promote Palkia and win the game. I need to set up the math so that the trapped Pokemon is KO'd coming back into my turn. We go back and forth for a few more turns, and the poison damage is seriously starting to rack up. By the way, I can't actually poison my own Ditto and use Monkey Dory to accelerate the damage here, since it would leave my Ditto with 50 HP coming back into my turn, meaning that a single energy Make It Rain would win him the game, rather than forcing him to find 2. Now Goldango has 180 damage on it. Once he passes back, it'll be on 210, Itchy Pollen to 220, Poison to 250, and if it stays stuck for one more turn, it'll be KO'd, coming back into my turn, and I can just use another Gusting Effect and Ursaluna to win the game. But all of those coin bonuses eventually pay off, and he draws into Luminion, which searches out Turo just in time. This frees Goldango from the active and allows him to make one last attack to win the game. There just isn't enough time for a third game, so the set ends with a tie, and I finish my tournament run with 2 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie. Technically undefeated. And since no one actually managed to go 3-0, I'm going to count that as a win and say that I accomplished my goal to win a tournament with only Budew. Even if it did have a few friends in the deck for support, it's pretty clear that Budew was doing most of the work. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I 100% recommend that you try out this deck. It's a whole load of fun and actually really solid. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end of the video. You must really like Budew, but you know what I like? You supporting the channel. Go subscribe and do all that stuff.